Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Herbst, Chief Strategist, UnifiedCommunications.com. I'd like to welcome you to a special online event focused on low-friction deployment and device management. I am joined by two colleagues, Jean Barrett, who's Teams Room Evangelist here at UnifiedCommunications.com, and Jake Fisher, Senior Strategist for Meetings and Devices. And I'm super excited to invite one of Microsoft's leading experts, Matt Slomka. Matt is a technical program manager with Microsoft. He has deep knowledge of the subject matter that we're going to be talking about today, among other things. And so, Matt, thank you for joining us. Nobody that we would rather have with us today for this topic than you. And yeah, I want to give you just a moment to introduce yourself.
Sweet. Thanks, Ryan. So Matt Slomka, program manager as part of the Teams product group. I focus on Teams rooms and helping customers deploy Teams rooms successfully and feedback into the product for improvements as well.
Wonderful. Well, before we get started, I would like to remind everyone that the Q&A pane is enabled and you can ask questions. And we have reserved some time at the end. We might answer some of them along the way, but otherwise we will take some time toward the end of this session. And with that, we can dive in. So I wanted to start just by talking about why did we pick this topic today, low friction, scaled deployment and device management. And part of what has occurred, and I think everybody has probably seen some of the statistics of just how pervasive Teams rooms are. Hit the 1 million device mark, recently, and most organizations are doing something with Teams rooms. And so certainly features and functionality are important. Microsoft continues to invest there, but a lot of the what we've heard from customers, and I think what Microsoft has heard from customers over the last 12, 18 months has been around, we're going fast, and we want tools that help us deploy faster, manage easier, create less friction as we really hit the gas on Teams rooms. And so this has been there's been just a load of functionality that has been coming from Microsoft around this, and we've reached a point. I think we've kind of turned the corner where we've got a lot of the tooling that we were hoping for, and so I thought it was a great opportunity to make sure that everybody's aware of just a lot of this new functionality and the tools that are available to help do things better and faster. And so that was really the goal. And I don't know, Matt, kind of your thoughts, but this is from you were a former IT pro in the enterprise world, and a lot of this tooling was things that I know would have been top of your list in terms of what you needed from a room system program perspective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest point of feedback from customers has been, hey, we want to deploy, but it takes us a while. It takes us a long time. We're getting devices that are 2 or 3 years out of date because they sat on shelves or the image came from a while ago. There's been a series of different kind of conversations with customers about that. And so our goal was 4 hours. So low friction deployment, under 4 hours, get a device out of the box, fully set up, operational, and signed into Teams. I think the reality is we're probably at about under 30 minutes. So we kind of blew that OKR out of the water, but I think we'll take that as a win. I don't think anybody's mad if it goes faster. So we've done a ton of work to auto update devices, get things up to date, get things ready to go. But ideally, and as you said, just make it so that you can take the device out of the box, plug it in, and get up and running. No messing with Windows settings, no messing with different configurations, no re-imaging it or forcing things to update for hours at a time, just making your life way easier as that IT admin. And then deploying more devices because you have more time. So, it kind of works out better for everybody on that side.
Awesome. No, totally agree. So maybe we start, Matt, if you could share some of the best practices for deployment and management. And one of the reasons that we invited Matt to this is, Matt is the author of the Device Deployment Playbook, which is a great piece of work that Matt created and Microsoft has published. And so I know, maybe giving us a little review of that and some of the best practices before we go into some demo of some of the new functionality and some further discussion.
Sure. Yeah. So the Device Deployment Playbook itself was kind of created as what was intended to be a one-stop shop to bring, end user IT folks, partners, and everybody along with OEMs up to date and to a consistent baseline of how to best deploy Teams devices. So we walked through and created kind of a couple sets of deployment guidance from how do you pick what devices you should use for what scenario, because, hey, you know, there's meeting rooms, there's phones, there's these Surface Hub things. How do these all fit into different spaces, and what do you do with them? And explain a little bit of that. And then we went into more of the technical deep dive side of the conversation of, hey, you know, I'm deploying my first device, but I intend to deploy 50, 100, 1,000, multiple thousands of rooms. How do I do that at scale so that my environment is set up and ready and manageable? And we actually walk through step by step by step how to do different things in that. It's nothing that isn't documented publicly on Learn. So if you go to learn.microsoft.com, all of the documentation is there. All that the device deployment playbook does is organize all of it into one spot for folks so you can get to it, see it, use it, kind of figure out what makes sense, and then go step by step by step. And if you follow all those steps, you'll be in a really great spot deploying devices. It's a bunch of learnings from myself. It's a bunch of learnings from my interactions with other customers and from conversations too of like, oh, you know, here's this problem that you might run into, and here's how you fix it, and here's how you make sure that that doesn't become a problem, and just things to do in bulk too, to where you can do large scale deployments of things. So that's really the intent around the device deployment playbook. I checked metrics the other day. It's been downloaded 30,000 times. So it's gotten enough usage, at least in the past. So we've had some really good feedback on it. I'm always open to more feedback too. So as you continue to see or see things change, we try to keep it up to date. I owe an update for some of the autopilot stuff we'll talk about a little later today, because I haven't written it yet, and I keep getting around to it.
Awesome.
With that said, got a couple other slides that are in the device deployment playbook too that I think are kind of worth talking about, and just kind of new features and things that we're working on and bringing towards for Teams rooms to kind of make the deployment story easier. So, you know, we always start the conversation with customers on, hey, you know, set a set of standards. Nothing's more difficult than somebody, you know, I stepped into my old role in my last organization, and every single conference from across the globe was different. And it was really hard to know, like, oh, this TV broke. Well, is that a 65? Is that a 75? Is that an NEC TV? Was that a Samsung TV? Who are we calling? Who installed that? What happens? Just having a set of standards so that you know. And what we generally recommend, you know, t-shirt sizes, small, medium, large, cover your spaces. Then you as the IT admin know kind of what makes sense in that space. And then on top of that, your end users know what to expect when they're going through and doing things also. So kind of just building both sides of that piece so that you've got that consistent story. And as you go from room to room to room, you know what to expect. And then the one other piece that I tend to hit on with customers that explains a little bit about design language principles and design language conversations as you look at designing your meeting rooms. There's a ton of conversation around, you know, front row and these signature Teams rooms and all these conversations around building these hybrid meeting rooms. What a ton of it comes down to is this eye gaze conversation. And so regardless of how you build your meeting rooms, what you want to be conscious of is that the folks in the room are looking towards the folks that are remote, that are displayed on the screen, and the camera happens to be there. And the audio source for the remote participants is also coming from that direction. So think things like when someone's talking remotely and you put in C-Link speakers, when you respond back to them, you're going to look where their voice was coming from, which happens to be the ceiling. So then suddenly you're sitting in a meeting room and you're talking towards the ceiling rather than making eye contact. Same thing with the camera placement of if you're looking at someone and you're talking to them, you look towards them. And if the camera is way up in the corner on the side of the room somewhere, you're not getting good eye contact, and that person remote isn't getting a positive experience, nor can the camera pick up, slice and dice, and do all the cool things that we can do with the intelligent camera pieces now to make that remote experience better. So this slide kind of explains it in a bunch of pictures and things that I like from like a cartoony perspective, but the reality is just you want to be looking towards the person that you're talking to, be it someone that's in the room or someone that's remote, so that you have that really positive experience and build those hybrid meeting rooms in whatever furniture and meeting room format makes sense for your space. So, any feedback or comments on that one?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, I think sometimes when we think about scaled low friction deployment, we don't think as much, the design side and eye gaze, and these are, we're thinking more about, autopilot and what that password things we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But this is clearly part of, going fast involves having a plan. If you don't have the right standards, if you're not designing your room, other things are going to slow you down. You're not even going to get to the point of needing some of that other tooling. And so it is, I think, super relevant to a conversation around, how we go fast is we've got to have, the standards locked down. We've got to be, things like eye gaze, obviously. We've got to be creating the right experiences for the program to be successful.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, and even in interaction, when you look at interactions with your corporate real estate teams and some of the folks that make decisions around the physical space design becomes really vital to going quickly. When I joined my last organization, what tended to happen was corporate real estate would build a new office, they would finish it, and then they would call IT and be like, hey, why isn't there technology in this meeting room? And you'd have to then go try to figure out, like, well, what did they build? What table did they buy? Where's the power? Where's all these things? So part of low friction deployment is the technical aspect of making sure the accounts are ready, making sure the system is set up and ready to go. But the other aspect of it is no matter how fast you can make the compute function, if the physical space and the physical install isn't ready to go and then isn't something that you actually and end users want to use, then no matter how fast you actually install it, doesn't really change the actual experience in the space. So you have to build both sides of that story, the physical install and the actual post, getting the technical aspects set up and making sure your environment's ready so that from a network perspective, things work.
Great.
Yeah, we come across this a lot on the migration of room systems. Is they're wanting to use their existing displays in the room. Sometimes those were installed with a camera up above, or maybe no camera in the first place. So coming through, looking at that, making sure that you've got that space to actually get that camera to the right height and fit underneath the display is also a consideration before you go in and actually start putting those in case you need to raise that display up or think about that positioning of the camera for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and I'm guilty of that too. I mean, the when I used to do meeting rooms, we put the camera up in the corner. We put the camera above the TV so that it was looking down so it could see everybody. I mean, we used to do that all the time with no thought to. I never thought about what was the remote experience like. It was like, no, I'm putting the camera in the room. Most people are in the meeting room. This is how I expect it to work. And the world has changed a little bit. And I was probably wrong then when I was doing it too, but it seemed like the right idea at the time. So yes, and then flipping over to the more technical aspects of deploying Teams rooms and how we've improved deployment at scale. So Teams rooms on Windows, we have released what we refer to as Autopilot plus Auto Login. And what we're doing there is we're leveraging the built-in Windows Autopilot functionality that you can do for a standard Windows laptop. And we're doing the full Intune enrollment, the Entra ID join, all automatically. You take a device out of the box, it reaches out to Intune automatically, built in. Every Windows device today does that already. And it goes, oh, hey, I'm serial number, blah, and it's a series of numbers and letters and things. That's the hardware hash. That then connects in Intune, gets a configuration, downloads it, deploys it, runs it, all without any interaction on the physical device itself beyond plugging it in and having network access. Then, once the Intune enrollment and the Windows pieces are done, the Teams Room app launches, just like it does on any other Windows box today. When the Teams Room app launches for the first time, it reaches out to the Pro Management Portal. And what you can do now as an IT admin is you can assign a user account in the Pro Management Portal to that hardware ID and to that device. So then when the device reaches out to the Pro Management Portal, it goes, hey, I'm Lenovo Computer XYZ, as you're seeing in the example here. The Pro Management Portal goes, oh, your resource account is Conference Room A. Congratulations, you're Conference Room A. It puts the credentials onto the device and signs it in automatically as well. So you have now taken a step that used to be a take a device out of the box, go through a bunch of Windows settings. Maybe you need to set time zone, set NTP, do some more just Windows type configuration things first. All of that is gone because you can automate all of that in Intune. You no longer have to manually join it to Azure AD or, Entra ID or Intune. That all happens automatically. And then you don't even have to sign in the Windows, the Teams Rooms app itself because you can push the credentials down. So no longer do you have to share credentials with anybody that's in the conference room with maybe an outsourced IT provider that might be doing the install. No longer do you have to do any of that. You're ready to go. Your device is set up and running with zero user interaction. It's
a beautiful thing. Yeah, and you're going to see a little more. Jake's going to give a little bit of demo inside the Pro Portal where you can see where some of this autopilot, where autopilot and auto login is available, and certainly Unified Communications is happy to have conversations. We are, we have stood up and are leveraging this autopilot technology, and auto login is something we're super excited about as well, even for those that aren't at a place where they can use autopilot or that doesn't make sense for whatever reason. The auto login technology or the one-time password technology is allowing folks to be able to create a password and hand credentials to somebody in the field in an office where you may not have IT and you want to hand it to an employee there, but you don't want to give them the full credentials, or it could be to folks like us that are they're installing on your behalf.
Yeah, and that's an awesome segue into one-time passcode. So as Ryan mentioned, for organizations where autopilot doesn't make sense, maybe there's no Intune usage in the organization and no Intune knowledge and no one wants to use Intune, and maybe you've got older devices where you just don't have the autopilot hardware hashes and don't want to go through a gathering process to get the autopilot hardware IDs, or you just don't want them Intune and Entra ID joined and you just want to sign them in. One-time passcode is a very similar solution to what I kind of described earlier, but what you do instead is you go into the Pro Management Portal, you find your resource account, and then you generate a one-time passcode. What that does is it either will auto-reset the password and create a new password for that account, and then not tell you, even as the IT admin, what it is, but just give you a series of numbers that you can go type in on the device to do the setup. Or you can actually upload passwords too if there's a set of predefined passwords, or if you don't have permission to change passwords on the accounts, which some meeting room admins don't have, at which point you can give it passwords instead to use to generate those one-time passcodes with, at which point you can set up your meeting room the exact same way, take it out of the box, go through the Windows setup. When the Teams Room app launches, it's going to ask you for that one-time passcode, which you can type in, use to navigate, use to do whatever changes you want to make to it, and you're good to go. So this one's been used a whole bunch of times now by customers. Actually, this has been awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Next one up is also a long anticipated feature and something that we're really excited about. And I think Jake's going to even give us a demo of it later. But yeah, maybe tee up kind of this one, and we can talk a little bit about why it's important as well.
Yeah. No, I mean, this one I think was the longest running customer ask. I think we had tracked it. It was there before I started at Microsoft and started tracking customer asks, and it took a while for us to get it right. This was an awesome partnership between the Pro Management Portal team and the Intune team to build unattended access for Teams Rooms devices. So right now today, it's Teams Rooms on Windows, but you can connect as an IT admin to control the console and see either one or two of the front of room displays. You can navigate all the way through, do any manipulation or changes you want to make to that Teams Rooms device. You can go into settings, go into Windows settings, do any of the navigation that you need to do, any changes, any tweaks. The biggest piece of feedback from all the customers is, hey, Teams Rooms is great when I'm sitting right in front of it and I can touch buttons on it. But when it's halfway across the globe, sometimes it's really hard to make changes, make tweaks, see what's happening, understand what a user is saying. So this one is a little more post the install side, but this one is really helpful to know what's happened, know what's going on. I used to use a third-party remote management tool when I was an IT admin and setting up Teams Rooms in other parts of the globe, to where it was really helpful because you just can't see it, and I can't get on a plane every time I need to set up a Teams Room. So now you have that option to fully control it. So you can take a device out of the box, do autopilot plus auto sign in, and then be able to remote access it without ever touching the device. So it's a really awesome story now that we've got, and this will come to Teams Rooms on Android as well.
It's no question. And sorry, go ahead, Jake.
Oh no, sorry. I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
I love having this feature.
It is. We also have been using third-party tools to accomplish this because it has been, in our view, just a requirement. Meaning, it could be that you want to white glove something for someone and just help them. But I would say a common scenario. Let's just say that there was a report. You've got a huge estate. Occasionally, you're going to have an issue somewhere. Let's say we get a report of there was a blip in an executive room that just call dropped. And so you start certainly your investigation, but part of what you want to do is you want to just put this thing through calls and reboots, and you just want to hammer on it and just put it through some really intense kind of burn in. And you don't want to necessarily, that might be overnights and weekends, and you don't want to be sitting in the office the whole time doing it. And so I think this type of capability is super, super important. And it's really exciting that having it built into the service doesn't have all of the challenges when we approach customers and presented third-party application for remote control. It wasn't the easiest discussion always. And so I think this is an easier story built into the service.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's included in a pro license, so no additional cost, no additional work, and it already works on any Teams room. You just got to go turn it on. So it's keeping and making things really easy from an end customer perspective. With, to your point, no additional third-party software anymore.
Yeah, and if anyone hasn't turned it on, I think this is also going to be an instructional session for you, because I think Jake's going to give you a sense of how to do that. And so maybe that's a good segue. And it's always fun to talk, and we love slides, and but actually seeing it is even better. So Jake, maybe you and John can take us through some demos of some of this new functionality inside ProPortal.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I wanted to start with first is for folks that haven't really used the ProPortal before, do kind of a quick overview of things, and then we'll dig in on some of those cool features that Matt just talked about, how to set up a quick little demo of how to use them. So for folks that aren't familiar, I'm going to start right at the top. We'll start at home. Don't skip on this. Really useful information that's brought in here. Some updates. One we'll talk about here is this ability to the new event section that's available in the ProPortal if you haven't used that before. But the one I always give a little plug for this anytime I show somebody the ProPortal, pay attention to the open office hours option that's available there. That we just have one coming up tomorrow, every Wednesday, 9 to 10. Matt is a very active participant in that each week. Both the session is super helpful, to be in it live, ask questions, hear new stuff. But the chat that continues with it throughout the week after that is super valuable as well. Again, Matt, I know, spends a lot of time in there talking people through, answering questions, that sort of thing.
Come ask me questions. Yeah. Come hang out. We've got we average more than 200 customers a week now in office hours, and there's 600 something people in the meeting chat. So there's always something happening.
Yep, for sure. And I'll point out to folks as well, a little description of that. If you're looking for the link to join, hit the little help question mark up here, and you'll find that down here. So make sure you do that if you're not already. And so just kind of working down our list as well. I'll mention, it is here in this environment that we're showing, we do a lot of testing, validation, setup, that sort of thing. So you'll see a higher level of tickets than you typically want to see for the amount of rooms here. But it does give us kind of a nice view of any issues that are being reported. So it does break it down for us by the issues that are occurring. By categories like security, connectivity, the issues with hardware, that sort of thing. One that you might see if you're doing setup of rooms is from security perspective, let you know if you're still using that default credentials, passwords that anybody could Google. But as well as maybe more interesting, we can see some things, automatically looking at all these tickets for health with the rooms. Like we have a room system here showing less displays than we would expect to see. Looking like there's one, something wrong with that front display, saying it should be two. We're only seeing one. So that lets us know that there's an issue there. It will, based on AI, Microsoft, gathering data from anyone that has these rooms out there, any kind of issue. We'll try to resolve some of these issues if it's like a configuration change or monitor to see if it's a reboot. In this case, it looks like we probably, as testing, unplugged one of our two displays at the front, so that's going to show there, and then it will be continually signaling that we'll close that as well. We'll also be able to see any kind of history that's happened there, if this is kind of a long-running issue or something we're going on with the room. John will show in a second how you can do a little integration to allow some other, a partner or to integrate with, like, say, ServiceNow if you'd like to, have these incidents show up in there along with that. And then from there, you're also going to see your rooms. So list of rooms, all of it visible here. Another tip I always like to give folks when you go through this, especially if you're going into like a larger scale deployment, we're looking at like all of our groups available here. You don't have to stick with this view, especially creating these groups can also be useful when you're creating different roles. So maybe you're setting for specific sites, you're setting like So for example, maybe our small Seattle site we have here, Seattle being my my home office here, and in this case, we want to limit this to specific IT techs to be able to see what's in those spaces. So I'll show in a second here how to set those groups, but kind of a useful space here to be able to see those rooms that you have in your environment. And from any of these, we can go to these whether there's an issue or not, being able to monitor these, to view things like all of their signals, if there are any open tickets on any of those, able to see settings. And the one we'll get to here in a second, one of the newer ones is, as I mentioned, you'll be able to see the events section where you can see kind of a summary of all those events coming in. You can see those for those specific rooms. I created a couple for my room sitting over here so you can kind of see what that looks like. Any activity on the room. So we were doing some troubleshooting, gathering logs with those issues that I mentioned. Also, some different actions that we have available as far as if we are doing some of that, log collecting, collecting crash dumps, anything going on, if we're just looking to restart the device. And then, in addition to the groups that I mentioned that you can sort these by, you will also see here where we're at with updates on these rooms. So that's another important one that I want to jump to. Next, kind of most interesting here is all of your rooms in here being able to use the Program Manager portal to manage those updates, monitor where they are. But also a big part of this is being able to set the rings on when these roll out. So this room I have set to just our general ring. It's going to be right in the middle. From individually rooms, we can choose to set those to different rings in this state. I can bump it up to maybe earlier staging, maybe a room that I'd be testing with. This would be a good candidate for that. Or maybe I'm wanting to push that out a little bit further, set that to like say what we would call like our executive ring. So boardrooms, CIOs, office, that sort of thing. We can choose to move those around. I'll assign this one. Bump it up to staging a little bit. And then we'll save remote access here for a second. John will show us with his room and his space, show a little bit of what that looks like a little later on. But jumping to kind of updates section. So here we're seeing kind of all updates as it's rolling out across our environment. Able to see from the variety of hardware we have in the space, what those updates are, kind of where we're at. We're in staging for a lot of these, rolling into general. I don't think we have any in the executive ring right now, so I might not see those here. But those will be our kind of default rings that we have. We're able to see by assignment what those rooms are that we have, where those are assigned here. But here, by default, we'll have these three rings. Staging, like I mentioned, a place to do some validation, maybe in your IT in environment, maybe a lab, some sort of place like that, one you're comfortable with doing a little validation testing with. Then rolling to, once it's rolled through its completion time, we have it set here for like 7 days, gives us a little bit of about a week or so to do some validation. Then rolling to like our general ring, more general set of rooms. Here we have that 23 of our rooms, spreading that out a ways, kind of bumping that out, 55 days for general, a little time for that to bake, before we go and roll that to our super high profile executive rings. But if you desire more additional rings in here, you can certainly do that. Add more rings, and they'll just fit into that overall time. Next ring doesn't kick off till the first ring the previous ring has finished. And then, wanted to jump to, along with this, the events section that we have available. I'll actually bump this out a little longer. I'll switch back to all groups so you can see a little bit more of this. So with the new event section, one you're going to get automatically is going to show you any poor call quality going on with any of your rooms. Note this is a little bit different than our incident section that's looking at the signals from the room, automatically creating an incident that is tracked so we can look for those issues. This is more events that happen that you might want to look into and then decide if you need to mark that room as having an issue. So poor call detected, we're automatically going to see that recorded in here, with the room, how recently was it, and if we want, we can view some of those details of what the issue was with that room. Similar to we can view some of the other call details from this. But this will bubble up any that are specifically poor call quality, who the the meeting was with, and if we decide, yeah, there was something, the room itself was an issue, we can mark that as an issue with the room. But in addition to that, this is optional to turn on. But I know Matt's probably got some feedback on this before. Is the little question mark on the console, the report an issue with a room. Typically, that was just going to Microsoft before. Now with the advent of this event section, we have the ability to do a little minor configuration and have those reports go to the event section here. So I did a couple to show you kind of example of what that looks like. So from my Teams room that's sitting next to me, I chose to report that as video, give a little feedback saying that the screen is flickering in this room, saying maybe it's something that the signaling is not picking up, but there's something wrong with that display. That lets me know that maybe there's an issue we need to look into. That one I would say, I want to flag that as unhealthy. Put a little details, create an event myself right from here to something that we want to track. I'll close that. I won't go through that.
That's also a really awesome way to grab all the logs from a device. So if you're reproing an issue right in front of the physical endpoint, you can go through, do that, and it'll roll up all the logs right there too. So you don't have to go into PMP later and do the log collection. It's all available right away.
Exactly. I actually did this one already before I hit the little collect logs button at the bottom, and that's what we see, the attached file. But I can show you with this other one. I bring this up as an example because noting, kind of nice that this goes to an event and you can kind of evaluate. Sometimes you get feedback from end users maybe isn't specifically room system here. So I did a little fun one here. Just someone reporting the room is too cold. Not something we're really going to be able to do from Pro Management Portal, but maybe you want to take this and go and contact facilities to look into maybe there's an issue with the room and make that a little bit better experience. So instead of those reports not going somewhere you can action them, it's available there now. As I mentioned, there is a little configuration you'll want to do to turn that on. I'll put this in the chat after this, but if you go for folks that are viewing the recording or want to follow along, in the documentation there is some documentation on setting up that events feed, and you'll see. But by default, poor call detected is going to be on. If you'd like to set that up so that a end user reported issue, if you're ever familiar with using on a Teams room on Windows device, using the XML file to make a configuration, there's just a little flag you need to set in there to turn that on. And then, as we were talking about previously about one-time passcode, autopilot. So if we go to the resource account section here, and what we'll see is build out of our resource accounts that are available for assigning to our rooms, and say we're having a remote technician install this room for us. Don't want to send them the full credentials of the room, the email address and password, that sort of thing. Want to give them like a simple one-time passcode that they can punch in when they get to the room to set that up. Very straightforward to configure that. I'll just grab. Pick on Ryan's room. I won't actually complete the whole process. And from here, we can choose. I can do more than just one if I wanted. But from here, generate a one-time passcode. I'm going to select Ryan's. Have two options here, what we can choose from. The first being automatically generate a password. If we do want it just to change the password, we're not as concerned with that, letting it select its own. But if you've already got a set of passwords configured for these, something you want to keep but don't want to share with the technician, instead you can choose to upload a CSV file. So this lets you do. I'm doing one here, but imagine you're rolling out 10, 15, 20, 100 rooms and want to set this up. Here you can choose CSV file. Gives you a nice little template. Very, very straightforward. It's just the account and the password that you plug in there. Upload your CSV file. I'll grab one I had previously. And then, oh, sorry, the wrong account. But yeah, there it will. That was my one from previously. We'll upload that in there and automatically assign that with a Excel spreadsheet that we can use, that we can send to the technician, give them the list with the passcodes. They go to the room, they're set up. So I already have one all ready to go. I just wanted to walk you through that really quickly, just kind of what the setup is. Show you one that I've did this process with previously. So Jacob Hub that's sitting behind me. This is my Surface Hub for folks that aren't familiar with it yet. Surface Hub 3 is a Teams Rooms on Windows. So same process, same kind of interface you're going to see on any other Teams Rooms on Windows that you're setting up. So I've got this one already set up. I've already generated that one-time passcode. And to save us a little bit of time we're doing this, I punch them in on the screen already to say no steps. But simple as I hit continue. Once I punch that in, I didn't have to enter any other credentials, just a code. And it's going to tell me that waiting for an admin to approve. So we'll be actually, if we go to one-time passcode request, we'll actually be able to see the list of all those. So as like technicians are going through, send up these rooms, those will pop in here. You can give admins that ability as it goes through this list to view these and choose to approve or reject. Obviously, you want to approve this. So yeah, simple as that. Updates have been changed. This room, as you see, changing behind me if you can, is completing its sign-in process. And then the last one I'll show before I pass it to John is the autopilot setup. So we've already got one set up in here. Matt kind of walked through, showed a little video of that, but just wanted to show folks where that section is. Under planning, when you are in here, able to any autopilot devices that you've already got configured that are ready to go, you'll be able to see here. And from the Pro Management Portal, it gives you the option to assign the account that you want to go through the whole autopilot and auto sign-in process. So selecting the device that you want or devices, selecting the account you're going to sign in with, and then very similar to like we showed before with like one-time passcode, have the option to have it automatically generate a new password for you, or upload an existing password as well during the process. I won't hit end to review and kick that off because we're not going to change that room. But very simple, straightforward process once you've actually got them set up and your device is shown in the list. And then right before I pass it to John, wanted to show a little bit of setup required in order to do the remote configuration option. So, remote access. So if we go under general, one step folks might miss sometimes, but we want to make sure that we've got configured. First step you'll need to do, go into general, and you're going to want to turn this on, not on by default, and then you will want your Teams global admin or whoever is setting up allowing this. It will ask for your email address to confirm. Yes, I'm turning this on. I'm allowing this. That's step one, just to enable the feature in your environment. Step two is you will need to create a role in order to allow people to have this. It's not built in to your built-in roles that exist, the Pro Manager, Site Leader, Site Technician. You'll want to create a separate role for this. So you can do this like by site, or globally across these, however you'd like to. But in essence, what it is creating a role, choosing the permissions. The big one is this will all look familiar except for the very bottom. You'll see remote access to view or modify. And then here you're able to choose your assignments, both who those people are, who's going to have access to that, and then the scope, what rooms or even room groups you want to decide to have remote access. So with that, I can pass it to John. John wants to kind of show using remote access with his machine he's got with him.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Jacob, for such an amazing demo you did. Hopefully my screen is sharing. Can you confirm that in a second?
Yes.
Great. So I'm actually excited to show you this quick demo about how you can actually remote your MTR devices. And as Jacob mentioned here, this is your home screen. And the first thing I'm going to do here, we're going to go to Rooms. And then remember, this is the one-stop shop for all MTR related devices. So we have a variety of devices here, all from Surface Hub, Jabra devices, G-Link, we have Neat devices, and more. So in this case, and let's remember, I am physically located in Tampa, Florida, and Unified Communications headquarters is actually in Houston, Texas. But I can easily remote those devices that we have in Houston, Texas, right from Tampa. In this case, I actually am going to use my Surface Hub that I have behind me, and we're going to do some remote access to that Surface Hub. And I don't know if you remember, but the Surface Hub just became an MTR device on Windows. So that is why it's also showing in this list. And again, we have a bunch of settings here to play around, but I'm going to be focusing on remote access for now. So if you go here, if you follow along, so you have remote access is on the right-hand side. Then I'm going to click in there. And then you'll see this option where I can actually start the session here. So I'm going to actually connect to my Surface Hub that I have right behind me. And then you'll see on real time how it's actually validating and also connecting to this MTR device. So just give it a second. And there you go. So as you can see, this is my Surface Hub. And as Matt mentioned before, I can literally manage this Surface Hub from anywhere on the world. So for example, if I want to go and access Whiteboard, I can pretty much access Whiteboard from here. And you can see how fast is actually the time response when it comes to doing remote access from my computer to the actual device. Another cool demo I'm going to give you, I'm going to start writing here, so please don't judge me about my writing here since I'm using the mic of my computer. But you can see how fast is actually the response when you're using remote access. Not only about Whiteboard, but you can do pretty much everything you want when it comes to remote access. I can pretty much go to setting of the device. And again, I can troubleshoot this device from anywhere in the world. Now, as Jacob mentioned before, I also want to show you something cool here. So I'm going to end this session for now. And if you are an IT person and you have access to the Microsoft Teams Room Pro Management portal, but you don't see the remote access feature, so that means that you don't have the right admin levels when it comes to the Pro portal. And again, as Jacob mentioned before, all you have to do is going through settings and then making sure that you have the right roles. In this case, I'm going to actually go to remote access. And then when I go here to remote access, Jake already mentioned how to enable those, but I want to mention something else. So when it comes to assignments, I actually going to double click in assignments, so I can actually see that this group that has been created has 5 users. And from those 5 users, we can actually remote access 7 different Teams Room devices. So if I actually double click in here, yes, I can see the members, but when it comes to the scope, I can actually edit the scope. So as you can see, we can only manage these devices. So let's say that you are on an organization that it has maybe a global presence, and you have a global presence in the US, but also you have in Europe. And then you want to assign 2 different partners per region. So you can pretty much select which one Microsoft Teams Room device you want to give access to this group of people. So for example, if I actually go here to edit, I can actually start typing the first letter of the room, and then it'll auto-populate here. So in this case, I can actually look for maybe my Surface Hub that I know is MTR device. So one second. And there you go, it should be populating.
One thing I wanted to note that yeah, I think it's not yet available for delegated access. Remote access can't be delegated yet, but I know that's something that's being requested in terms of giving this to your partner. Although delegated access is a big part of Pro Portal, I guess the idea that you can pass over certain controls to a partner. I also just wanted to make sure that we're doing the demonstration with Surface Hub, which is an all-in-one device. But if you had a dual display Teams Room and a center of table touch panel, you would see all of those screens, including the touch panel. So you'd be able to see what's on the front of room displays. You'd also be able to see or interact with the center of table, console, access settings, etc.
Thank you so much for that, Ryan. And as you can see, I can either add any more rooms here, or I can actually delete any of these rooms if I want. So this is something I'm not going to do at the moment. So I'm going to exit that. And the next thing I actually wanted to show you is how to add partners to the Microsoft Teams Room Pro Management Portal, and why you want to do that. So as you scale your organization when it comes to new Microsoft Teams Room devices, again, you can assign partners to manage those specific devices. In order for you to do that, I want to show you how easy and simple it is. So if you go to settings, you have a section here that is partner. And then when you go to partners, you can actually add a new partner. In this case, I'm going to put Unified Communications. And then I actually am going to give them an invitation that is going to expire in 10 days. So they have to accept the invitation. So now if I go next, you can see that you can assign levels like create a new role, edit roles, and also add a new partners admins. Now, if I go next, this is the area where you can start adding those conference rooms on your to be managed for that specific partner. So if I actually go ahead and start searching for my Surface Hub that I have right behind, I can actually click on that device, and then I can keep adding more devices into to be assigned with this partner. So if I actually go next, then you will have to acknowledge the terms. And right after that, you can just agree. And that's it. That's simple. That's how easy it is for you to add a partner to be able to manage your devices in your organization. Now, I'm going to skip on that. This is something I don't want to do that right now. And the next thing, since we are here, I want to show you also ServiceNow. So many of you already know that ServiceNow is a IT platform that allows you to troubleshoot and also fix tickets on your organization. So the cool thing about Microsoft Teams Room Pro Portal Management is that you can also integrate ServiceNow with the portal. So you can have one-stop shop solution when it comes to not just being able to see the incident, but you can pretty much right from here, you can put any notes, you can close, create new tickets if you want as well. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to show you. So I'm going to pass to Matt, who has some cool features to share.
Awesome. I'll just tee this up. Thank you, John. And so Matt, yeah, great job on the demo, Jacob and Jean. Thank you so much. I think that was in depth, and everybody's getting a sense of just how powerful Pro Portal is. And if you haven't looked for a little while, how much new is there probably since the last time you looked. Matt, just thought while we have you, and we've got an audience that's interested in Teams rooms, maybe you could just give us a little bit before we do Q&A. I know we've got one question, and or we may have a couple of questions.
There's a couple of questions.
Yeah, we'll start Q&A in a moment, but maybe take us through some of the roadmap in terms of things that are coming soon on the MTR side.
Sure. So there's one thing that we're trying to evangelize right now and kind of get the word out on. It's in public preview. So if you've got an MTR that is in public preview, either through the Teams admin center settings that moves an account into public preview, or via the XML settings that move an account into public preview and a device into public preview, for Teams rooms on Windows devices, we are bringing the intelligent speaker capability that we've had for a while on dedicated hardware, where you had to buy the specific Sennheiser EPOS, Yealink, or the Jabra Panicast 50 intelligent speaker product. Now for any Teams rooms on Windows device, regardless of what microphone is connected to it, we are in the cloud processing that audio and doing identification of who said what in a meeting room. So this is in public preview because we're trying to make sure that we get the accuracy right. So we're trying to make sure that we hit the quality bar that we're looking for with everybody. So you'll see it in public preview for the next little while, but encouraging customers to try it, use it, it, experience it. And what that feeds into really, really well is the who said what in a meeting room that comes with your Copilot meeting summaries and the meeting summarization pieces. So no longer is it conference room A said that Ryan was going to bring donuts. It's Matt in conference room A said Ryan was going to bring donuts. So you can build that AI story in your meeting rooms also and add additional value across your whole team's meeting ecosystem by just having that capability. And it's included for all rooms that have a Teams Rooms Pro license. No additional hardware needed anymore. You just get the capability right away.
This is so big. Just I guess for organizations, and it's just a matter of kind of, it's not an if, it's a when this emerge kind of hits your desk as a rubber hits the road, kind of first issue in the first meeting room related issue in the AI world. And whether it's, Teams Premium transcripts or Copilot and you want to interrogate a transcript, everybody is loving this new world where, we have a transcript and we have summaries, and it just breaks in the meeting room, and all of a sudden it becomes really important. So yeah, I think kudos to Microsoft for fast tracking this functionality, for making it available for and coming to larger spaces and without the hardware restrictions. And yeah, we're super excited. We're testing this internally as well, and it's working great.
Yeah, no, we've gotten really great feedback on it in a little bit of time it's been in preview, and so we're really looking forward to seeing more folks use it and really just get all the benefits of having deployed something in their conference rooms that's constantly updating and cloud-based. As you get all these extra benefits as we can just add features and capability. So I think that one's probably the big one I wanted to hit on. And then there's a couple others that are kind of in the roadmap. So there's one that's in the public roadmap that I don't think has been asked for as long as remote access because the Android devices haven't been around as long. But custom wallpapers for Teams Rooms on Android devices is on the public roadmap. So you should see that in the next Teams Rooms on Android release. You'll actually be able to deploy custom wallpapers to your Android devices. So custom branding or knowledge-based things or whatever you may want to put on your wallpapers and on your Teams Rooms, you'll be able to do so on your Windows and your Android devices now also. And then last piece is we continue to expand our intelligent camera capabilities. So with InfoComm right around the corner, you're going to see some more announcements from some more OEMs on multi-stream capable cameras that can do facial recognition. So you'll start seeing the same pieces that we're doing for voice recognition as facial recognition also, to know when you're looking at a gallery of people who's saying what. I join calls with customers all the time who like joining the meetings with their meeting rooms to show me their meeting rooms, which is awesome. But I have no idea who they are because I'm terrible with names and faces. So 5 minutes into the meeting, I've forgotten who's sitting in that room, and having facial recognition will be really awesome so that I can actually know who it is that's in that room and who's talking right now, so that I can address them accordingly rather than doing the best I can to fake me forgetting what their name is. So really looking forward to that one also. As more and more capabilities come forward, you'll see that continue to grow across the whole Teams ecosystem. But I think those are just the fun roadmap items to watch, just kind of as you're looking at stuff right now. So happy to dive into Q&A.
Awesome. Yeah, let's run through a little bit of Q&A. And Matt, I know you've already started answering a couple of these, but I think yeah, Stephen asks, are there alerts for the events for proactive support? And so certainly, yes, alerting is a key portion of capability inside Pro Portal. So yeah, in addition to those, and I know we didn't spend a ton of time on the incident section, but yeah, that is those alerts can be emailed to a person or a group, or they can be sent in through ServiceNow. As well, alerting is definitely a big part of the kind of foundation of the Pro Management Portal. Link to office hours, looks like we got that. Somebody asked, and we got that in.
And for those that aren't in the chat and not reading the Q&A, if you go into the Pro Management Portal, and I think Jacob showed this, there is a question mark in the upper right-hand corner. The link to join is there for everybody as well.
And I know Jerry mentioned that was working on Autopilot in their environment. They got it going, but they had an issue with the auto login portion. And Matt, I think you shared that there was a bug, but that's Oops. Been resolved. Yeah.
You ship a feature and then you make a whole bunch of changes in the next release. And we went through a huge re-architecture for Teams Rooms 5.0. And there was an intermittent bug in Autopilot in 5.0 where the auto login credentials didn't work. That has since been fixed in 5.0.230. So shouldn't see an issue going forward there. Sorry on that one.
Great. And then I know RA asked some questions about usage information on MTRs. Matt, maybe you wanted to summarize question and kind of share your guidance.
Yeah, there was a question in the chat on knowing who was physically doing something with the MTR. So, the Teams room is signed in with its own shared device account. So it's, conference room A at Microsoft.com in that meeting and acting in Teams. So it joins meetings as its own identity. It makes a call as its own identity, things like that. The ask was how to know who the person was that was touching it. And there really isn't a way to do that because they're intended to be shared devices and they're intended not to function as user-focused devices. So the general recommendation I have for customers is if there's a regulatory requirement or some security need around that, that badge access doors that have tracking on them of, oh, Matt swiped his badge to get into the conference room. Now I know Matt was in that conference room and did that. That's generally the easiest way to achieve that goal. If there's just concerns around security of, I don't know who could walk in and there's that join button there and they could land in a meeting that I don't want them to. Generally coach customers around using lock meeting and around controlling their meeting lobby. But we also released in Teams Rooms 5.0 a new feature called Require Meeting ID and Passcode. And with that, you as an IT admin can set on your Teams Rooms on Windows, and we shipped it on Android as well, I think a week earlier or something like that, an option where if a meeting is marked private or if it's any meeting, when someone taps the join button, rather than it taking them directly into the Teams meeting, it prompts them for the Teams meeting ID and passcode first. I hate relationship with this feature because it ruins the one-touch join experience that we've come to know and love of you walk in and you tap join and then you have to type in the meeting ID and passcode, so you got to go find your phone and find the meeting ID and passcode for it. But it does add that additional security piece to it to know that the person that's joining that meeting with that MTR was invited to that call and has the credentials for that call. So it helps from a security perspective and the perceived security around it, and hopefully helps make things a little bit easier.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again, Matt. I just put into the comments, if anyone attending, watching this is going to be at InfoComm next week, Unified Communications and Microsoft are hosting a really, really exciting kind of VIP after party taking place Tuesday evening after the opening ceremonies. And so I put a link into LinkedIn where you can learn a little bit about that event and register for it if you are interested. We are just about out of time, kind of perfect timing, team, and I want to say huge thanks to you, Matt, for joining us today, and for my colleagues here at Unified Communications for great work on today's webinar. For those of you watching, whether it's live or on one of the rebroadcast, we would love to keep this conversation going. If you want to talk low friction, scaled deployment and device management, and we're offering a free strategy session. You can just reach out to us. We'll have a strategist like one of the folks on with you today to talk through how you're doing it, ways that you may be able to hit the gas and move faster. So please be on the lookout for some follow-up. And again, we'll be sending out a link to or publishing a recording from this. So if you had a colleague that missed that you wanted to share this with, we'll make sure that you have that opportunity as well. With that, I would like to thank all of you for joining, and we will call this one a wrap. Please join us again at one of our future sessions.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.